Welcome back to AP Statistics with Mr. Walton. Today we're going to review Chapter 8 from the Practice of Statistics, the 4th edition. Yeah! Woohoo! Confidence intervals! Look at this, we have a little graphic organizer. Hopefully you've seen this before, looked at it before, and tried to check it out. For confidence intervals, we have 3 conditions that need to be met. Well, 2 of them, it doesn't matter what kind of statistic between our proportion or our means that we're looking for. So, when we look at this, the SRS and independence conditions are the same. So remember, mnemonic device, we're thinking about confidence intervals, we think about conditions, think sin. Sin before you begin. Yes. All right. So S standing for our SRS, random allocation, random selection, random assignment. I, our independence, our 10% rule, stating that it's reasonable to assume that we have 10% or less of the population within our sample that we are using, and we are able to say, therefore, that we believe reasonably that the subjects, units that are in our sample are independent of each other. Then comes the difference. Here we go. We have the divergent series between whether we're talking about means or we're talking about proportions. If we talk about means, we do have the option of having a known standard deviation. Now when we say this, here we're talking about the population sigma standard deviation. All right? If we know it, then we jump straight into using our z interval, and our normality is either it's given that the population is approximately normal, and or we can say that n is greater than or equal to 30. However, most of the time this does not occur. Here is where we want to make our money. We want to talk about we have a sample and we're trying to investigate. That means we don't know anything about the population. So now, if it's given that we know it's coming from a normal distribution, we can still continue. Or we're talking about our Fry rules. CLT is still there, but that's part of our Fry rules. Large Fry means that we have a sample of 30 or more. Meeting the central limit there, meaning boom, we're ready to rock on. Otherwise, we have 2 different categories. We've got our medium fry is 15 to 30, and we have our small fry is less than 15. If this is the case, we're going to graph the data from the sample, and we're going to look at it to see if it's approximately normal, or approximately symmetric. If so, then it's reasonable to assume that our sampling distribution is approximately normal as well. And then we're going to use our t interval. Okay? Don't forget the degrees of freedom. All right, moving on. How do we make sure to remember everything? Okay, here we go. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. All right, now, how do we check to see if we are ready? Look. Can you do this? If not, we need to focus on these concepts. All right? That's kind of the key. So you should go through this and pick out those things that you need to work on most versus those things you're ready to rock and roll on. And then, of course, we should practice just a little bit because typically the concepts are hard. So let's look at some multiple choice. I'll give you guys some time. There's 3 that you can see. Try to figure those out for just a second. Okay, so for number 1, you can safely conclude. So now, what we're looking for is, do we have a statement here that is true either about our confidence interval or about our confidence level, because it doesn't tell us which one we need to talk about. Either could be okay. And if we look, the only one that is correct is A. All right. There we go. Number 2. Now we're specifically talking about the correct interpretation of the interval, meaning stay away from probability. Okay, if that's the case, I think C is by far our best answer because it looks rocking. If we're looking at number 3, okay, we're talking about what could happen to increase the confidence, the confidence interval. And that's how we understand, do we know what's happening? If I have a 95% confidence interval, what could make it larger? Can I increase the sample size? Yes, but then variability decreases, which would decrease it, so I don't want to do that. So the only thing that's up here that is okay is A. Use a larger confidence level. It'll make it wider. All right. Let's look at 4 and 5. Take your time, so just a second. Okay, for number 4, keep in mind, margin of error only accounts for random sampling error, not bias. Bam. Okay? You were told that the proportion of those who answered yes to a poll about the internet use is 0.70 and that the standard error is 0.0459. Then we use our formula to calculate. So, should be C. Try it. You should be able to do it. Okay, a couple more. Looking at 6, 7, and 8. Quick calculation for standard error here. We should get C. All right. And we're looking at the next one. We're talking about 90% confidence interval. We're actually going to be able to calculate. Okay, and in this case, we need to actually find the margin of error since all of our p-hats are the same. So if you calculate appropriately, you should find that C again is the correct answer. All right. Now, which is the smallest sample size needed to guarantee an estimate? Yeah. I think you've seen something like this before. B. And our last 2, just so that we know. Got some good practice in. Looking again at making sure we're calculating our margin of error correctly, we would get D for number 9 and C for number 10. Last few reminders. If I were you, set up a graphic organizer for yourself. Walk through the concepts in your head, then double check that what you're saying makes sense and matches up with what we've talked about in class or what is in your book. And then you're ready to conquer Chapter 8. Good luck.